Hi, everyone, and welcome to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K. Laidlaw. Wendy has spent the last 2 years helping women with various stages of endometriosis to heal naturally after putting her condition into remission. After her own healing success from stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis, she's inspired to heal others, and her goal is to help some of the 175 million women know that there is another way other than painkillers, drugs, or surgery. This is the place to be for real talk with real people for real results, so you can learn how to heal your endometriosis naturally. Please note that the opinions expressed in this program may represent options, but are not a substitute for proper medical care. Before starting any new healthcare program, we recommend you consult with a health professional.
Hey everyone, it's Wendy K. Laidlaw here from Heal Endometriosis Naturally. I hope that this message, podcast or YouTube video finds you well today. As always, I love having amazing guests on that I can interview, that I can help share with you these amazing gifts that they can bring to this endometriosis community. And today I have the wonderful TJ Woodham from USA. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Wendy.
It's fantastic to have you on. I know we've spoken before, and we have a love of the laws of nature and the human body. And I just thought it would be wonderful for you to come on and share your experience and your knowledge of the human body as we know it.
Absolutely. No, I'm honestly honored to be on your podcast. And I know we had a really good conversation when you were on my podcast. So I'm glad to return the favor.
No, thank you so much for being on. And I always sort of like to start just so people can get to know you, and just kind of maybe you could share because you're a doctor of chiropractic health, and maybe you could share, when did your first interest peak into becoming, interested in the human body and becoming a doctor?
Cool. Yeah, totally. So I'll just start by, I've been an athlete my entire life. I played baseball, I played football, soccer, basketball, you name it, right? So I was always into athletic performance and trying to be the best person ever as far as athletic performance and that kind of stuff. So I was always into getting stronger, faster, being the best, like being better than the next person next to me. So, in that aspect, I always thought that chiropractic, physical therapy, and just becoming stronger in every aspect was something that always, it kind of drove me in. So I think it was around the end of high school. I knew I wanted to do something with medical-based stuff, or whether, like I said, that's like physical therapy or even being a chiropractor. And I remember when I was 17, I was having issues with my neck. It was really tight and I had no idea what was going on. So I went to a chiropractor and I got adjusted 3 times. And, I felt better, and I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. But I never thought anything of it. So I went to college, and I went to the University of Florida. And there I was an athletic trainer for the University of Florida football team. And after a while, oh, this is pretty cool. Like maybe I'll go to physical therapy school, because I always thought that was kind of cool, and like all the different modalities they do and that kind of thing. So at the time I was, kind of gearing towards that. But then I remember it was coming towards the end of graduation, or towards my time of graduating. And I remember my buddy called me and said, hey man, like, I know that you've always been in athletic performance. Like you want to always be better. You played sports your whole life. You ever thought about being a chiropractor? And I thought, well, you know what? I have thought a few times, but never really looked into it. But he kind of took me down this rabbit hole and said, hey man, chiropractors don't just do adjustments and align your spine, but they actually help people with autoimmune diseases through nutrition, lifestyle approaches, and all this really amazing stuff that I had no idea. Like I saw people, getting better with debilitating diseases just by looking at the spine and changing the way that people ate. And I know that you see this all the time, Wendy. Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like I've always been into nutrition. I was, my background is like bodybuilding and eating what I can to be stronger. So I thought it was cool. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go down this path. And without even thinking about it, I just applied to chiropractic school, and I was just completely enthralled in the idea of becoming a chiropractor. And at the same time, I was actually kind of unhealthy. I had a pretty bad case of eczema, which I help people with that online and in the office today. I had a really bad case, and doctors said that it's probably one of the worst they'd ever seen. Well, come out to find that the reason why I had eczema is I had really bad digestion. I was eating terrible foods, like bodybuilding lifestyle. You have pre-workouts, you have whey proteins, you have all these nasty concoctions. And I was beating myself silly going to the gym like 7 days a week. And from the outside, you look at me, you say, wow, that guy's like really built. He's cut. He looks great. He must be super healthy. Well, the reality is I was super unhealthy. And so when I was going through chiropractic college, I actually found one of my mentor doctors who was really into clinical nutrition. And his whole idea was kind of like breaking someone down and then building them back up through lifestyle, nutrition, and getting the right kind of environment around them. And from there, I learned the things that he taught me. I got myself better, and now I'm helping a whole bunch of other people with skin conditions and digestive disorders. So that's kind of the bird's eye view. I'm sure we're going to get into the nitty gritty, but that's kind of where I started with everything.
That's fantastic. And I can really hear, I mean, when we've spoken out with this podcast, that this real passion that you have, and I know I have it too. And when you meet other people that just, our bodies are amazing. You know, you give them all the right ingredients, the right environments, and they just do what they're supposed to do, which is just to rebuild and to heal themselves. So I mean, it sounds like chiropractic health for you, and as you say, it's not just adjustments. It's viewing the whole body, whole person, which is very different from the mainstream medical doctor. How have you found that yourself, you know, when interacting with other doctors?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. So the difference is that, you know, you say we don't look just at the adjustments, but we also know that those nerves come out from the spine into your digestive organs. Mm-hmm. People forget that if you have any kind of shift in your posture, that'll put a lot of stress and strain on those nerves that innervate the organs. So a lot of times people have heartburn, indigestion, acid reflux, or they'll even have issues like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's, and they wonder why they have all these problems. When we take an x-ray of their spines are really bad. Like they're degenerated, like they almost have no disc space. The nerves that are coming out are being impinged on. And even with some women, we'll see that they can't actually have a child because of how terrible their lumbar spine is. We know the lumbar spine, the lower part of your spine, actually goes into the reproductive organs. Yeah. And when there's something going on there, women can't have kids a lot of times. And, you know, like even sometimes with just a chiropractic adjustment, freeing those nerves can actually help with that. Yeah. So from that perspective, like even from other chiropractors, a lot of people aren't looking at posture and the way that the spine is shaped and actually how it can affect not only muscle pain, neck pain, headaches, but also all the organs in your body. Yeah. So that's something that definitely separates most chiropractors from any other kind of medical doctor, physical therapist, or anything like that. So I think that's really what allows us to do so much for somebody, not just here, take this medication and off you go. It's no, hey, we're going to look at your spine. We're going to look at the functioning of your organs, cells, and tissues all the way through your entire body, because we know it's not just one thing, it's everything that comes together as one. So I think that's kind of what draws the line between us and other healthcare providers.
Which is awesome, and which is why it's so exciting to speak to people like yourself, because you really, and it's common sense, isn't it? And it's funny because I heard, I think it was in the docu-series called The Truth About Cancer, and they were interviewing a doctor who was trying to include, you know, and I say natural realms, but, you know, just normally how the body starts to, you know, reproduce and heal by removing toxic elements and things and adjustments. But he was specifically targeted by the mainstream medical doctors and pharmaceutical companies because he was having so much success with his patients. And again, and it's astonishing when you start to, like, you know, we sing off the same hymn sheet, in that, you know, we just have this amazing respect and appreciation of the human body and its ability to regenerate. But it's amazing how certain people's training, you know, just, as you say, just, you know, hand out painkillers, drugs, just do surgical procedures, but not, and looking at people as individualistic elements or body parts and not as the whole person. So even just to hear you talk about looking at the spine and, you know, women, you know, the nerves being freed because, you know, and they're you know, affecting their pelvic, you know, capacity. That's huge, especially for women with endometriosis, you know, because invariably if they've had multiple surgeries, they've had loads of adhesions, and there's lots of inflammation down there, you know, that other element of having, you know, frozen spine or frozen pelvis or whatever that's going on could really make a huge difference to them.
Right, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because it's funny when when somebody outside of, so-called medicine actually gets someone better, they think it's voodoo.
Yes.
They're like, there's no way they crossed their arms.
That's you were just lucky. That's just one of, they call it an enigma. It's just like one of those things that happen.
Yeah, it happens quite a bit. And it's actually very interesting. We will very rarely sometimes get referrals from medical doctors. And if we do and we get them better, it's really cool though, because we actually then start getting that relationship. It takes, a few patients for the medical doctors to start realize, oh wow, they're actually doing really good quality care. They're following up with notes. Everything is documented. Wow, I actually trust this guy. It's like, it doesn't have to be like that. You just have to be realizing that there's much more that goes into health than giving someone a pill. It blows my mind sometimes that people forget about the human spine. That is literally the only way we can move and live. People forget that to move your legs, to go to the door, if I want to go to the door over there, my brain has to send information down my spine to get my muscles to contract and for me to move my pelvis. It does the same thing with the organs too. And so when we think about organ health, we think, oh, we need to either cut on someone, we need to do or give them drugs, we need to do this or that, and just alleviate the problem. It's like, well, let's kind of dig deeper and see, hey, maybe there's something else going on here. So, I get pretty passionate about it, but it's just kind of mind-blowing that these doctors, they go to school for so long, but then they forget the basics. I mean, this stuff is not hard to understand. Absolutely. It really is just human anatomy and physiology at the core.
Absolutely. And you're spot on. And that's what I've sort of said. But again, to be fair to those medical doctors, they're just a byproduct of their training. To change that mentality. And again, if you look back history, there was as many, chiropractic, training organizations way back in the 1920s, 1930s, but then they got sort of, driven out by the big pharmaceutical giants. So these people that go into that level of training, they don't know any different. They maybe get a couple of weeks on nutrition in their 4-year education. They're trained in pharmaceuticals, they're trained in surgical procedures. So if somebody goes, and we're all conditioned to go to the doctor, then you're on a pathway which is not going to get to the root causes. And as you say, the spine is an essential skeleton part, like the vagus nerve, it goes right up and down, from brain, body that branches out. There's so many essential parts that if you're not aligning the body, whether it is, with adjustments or with nutrition or, with toxins, you're not realigning the body, then you're just chasing your tail. And I think it's very, very sad, because I think I spoke to an amazing doctor yesterday who is in his late 60s, and he was for 40 years in mainstream medicine in the UK, and he got totally disheartened because his patients were getting sicker and he couldn't understand why. And he kind of slowly moved across and started to, explore and expand, the natural ways. And I say natural, it's just, as you say, it's not rocket science. It's just working with the body, and he got such great success. So it's wonderful, as I say, to speak to people who understand. And it also is very sad because the people, who are mainstream medicine, you view it as some kind of, it's kind of woo-woo thing. But of course it's not.
Right. And I should say, I completely agree with you. They're only taught and they only train the way that they've been, they've learned through the medical system. But the cool thing is that there's a lot of doctors, going down the functional medicine route, which I think is phenomenal. And, people are getting more aware and, things are changing. And I have no problem with medical doctors. I have a problem with people who don't change. They're
closed-minded, and if something's not working for their patient, you would hope, wouldn't you, that they would then be open to, well, if my approach isn't working, like women with endometriosis can have multiple surgeries, and I'm talking 8, 12. A lady had 26 surgeries for the same thing. Well, clearly that's not working. That's not working, and we're having multiple organs removed as a result. So at what point do you go, okay, because the whole oath of being a doctor is do no harm. So you kind of hope that you would kind of go, right, okay, what I'm doing here is not working for my patient, so I owe it to my patient to at least investigate what other options are out there.
Right. No, I totally agree. And some of the doctors, they don't go back to the drawing board. It's like, hey, this isn't working. Why don't we make a new diagnosis or figure out something else for this one? Because obviously it's not working. And so, No, I totally agree with that. I think even, even other healthcare providers, they just get lazy, they get stuck in their ways. That's why I always like to go to conferences, brush up on my skills. There's always new research science coming out. There's always change happening. So if you're stuck in the idea, and don't get me wrong, there are things that will work for a long time. Like nutrition will never go away.
Yeah.
People forget that we've been living from the planet Earth for as long as we've been here. Like the food is all we really need. Why do we need these synthetically made concoctions in a lab? It makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. Like some things in medicine are completely necessary. If you have a major infection, totally cool. I get it. And so that's when we need medicine. We need emergency medicine. But I think that we forget a lot of times that everything comes from outdoors. And it's sad to say that 90% of our lives are spent indoors. Yeah. So I think that we really need to get back into touch with nature. It honestly doesn't take a rocket scientist for you to understand that being outside, you just feel better. Granted, it's like it's like 30 degrees out here, but in the summer and when the sun is shining, you immediately feel better, and everyone could admit that. Yeah. So I think we just need to get in touch with Mother Nature a little bit more without getting too hippy dippy. But the reality is, food is the medicine we need.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you got to start with the food first, because again, we're all kind of mesmerized. When I went to Phoenix recently, and I hadn't traveled for quite a long time, and I was literally kind of like, wow, all the colors, the marketing, the messages. Wow. There's so much, thrown in people's faces, like eat me, eat this. And actually, and you then look at the ingredients list and you see all the food that's in there that's been, right, conjured up in a factory or in a science lab to reach the bliss point and have people eat more. And of course, you'll appreciate that eating the right food, and we're saying keeping as close to nature as possible, helps prevent and reduce inflammation, which of course is a huge problem for disease with people in their bodies, isn't it?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one thing that I really like to look at. I like to do lab testing with people, because you can always put someone on a diet, right? Like you could do like keto, paleo, which both of them work great, but you have to look at who you're working with, because some people just don't break down fats that well. Like you always have to take consideration, if this person's had their gallbladder out, they won't break down fats as well. Yeah. Right. And so you have to really see where the person's at. And I know that you do that, and you individually tailor this for people. But I think that if you're just giving someone a plan, you're just kind of like blindly guessing with their health. And so, for instance, like eggs, we know that eggs are actually really they're the most nutrient dense food on the planet. They have everything you need in it, but some people are allergic to eggs. Yeah. That's just the fact, right? Because they've had so much of it over their lives, they've developed an allergy, but you would never know that unless they either had symptoms or if you had a lab test. Yeah. So when I go down the path of individuality and I'm helping someone, I like to look at numbers, because I don't like to just say, hey, eat this because it's healthy, because I've even found, some people are allergic to salmon or avocado, and these are so-called superfoods, right? And
celery. I've heard some have been allergic to celery before.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we kind of forget that everyone's different. Like everyone needs certain things in their life, whether that it's not only food, it's emotional comfort too. Some people are different in that realm. They've had traumas in their past, whether that's abusive, physical, or emotional. So people are in different stages in their life, and they really need certain things for them to function at a higher state.
Yeah. Well, I'm so delighted you brought up the emotional component, because I think that's so poorly understood in the West. In the Eastern practices, they really get the whole body, whole person approach. And we talked about the spine and the vagus nerve and all that, what's happening in the brain, what's happening in the nervous system affects every aspect of the body, and impacts on hormones, and that impacts on all different aspects. And again, it's so sad to me when I hear like women with endometriosis on Facebook or in the community saying, the doctors don't even believe my pain. So not only do they have the pain suffering that they're trying to be taken seriously, and I know I had that experience myself where you were fighting to be believed, but you're also then dealing with this projection of like, there's something wrong with you, you're making it up, you're a hypochondriac. So over and above anything that might have gone on in the past. So in your experience, how have you found that trauma and abuse and things have affected people, and how have they shown up in their bodies?
Yeah, one thing that I've definitely noticed with many people that have skin conditions, whether that's eczema, rosacea, acne, or psoriasis, it is severely dependent on how stressed they are in their life and how they're dealing with that. Yeah. I personally, if I can go back to my chiropractic doctorate training, I was in my radiology class, and I must have been, a few months out from graduating, and this was one of the hardest radiology classes in the entire program. And we get, oh my God, we have thousands of hours of radiology, MRI, special imaging. And so I remember I was sitting in class, and I still had a little bit of eczema on my fingers, and I was still going through my healing phase. And I remember I was so nervous and stressed for this exam. And because you only had seriously 60 seconds to answer what you see on the screen. And this, oh my gosh, it was the hardest thing ever. You literally have to take a magnifying glass to look at it, but it was on a projection. So it was so hard to see the pathology that was going on. So, and this guy tested very hard. And I remember sitting there being so stressed out, I could literally feel my eczema just bubbling on my finger. And for many people who are listening, they have not seen my eczema. It was pretty gnarly, and my entire middle finger of course it was my middle finger, on my right hand was completely raw and red. And I remember it just started pulsating because I was so stressed. Yeah. And so that's just a small example. And I was itching so bad. And I just remember that. But I also have had where in the past clients had been through a stressful move. They were eating the same, but they weren't able to manage their stress properly. And when they were going from house to house, they messaged me and they were like, TJ, I don't know what happened. I've been eating fine. I've been doing this, doing that, but we just moved and I've been really stressed. And I noticed I had an outbreak on my neck. I'm like, well, how have you been dealing with your stress? You've been doing meditation. Have you been doing breathing drills? Have you been talking about it? Because a lot of times people bundle it up inside too much. Yeah. When we are social creatures. People forget that we are not supposed to be alone in this world. Humans were bred to live together. Yeah. And so now we are more isolated than ever. Even though we're connected through social media, we're still isolated. Yeah. And so when people don't talk about it, when they don't consciously think about it and either pray or meditate, whatever you have to do, then it bundles up and it actually shows up on the skin. Yeah. And so if it's showing up on the skin, you also have to think what's going on with your nervous system, your brain, every other tissue in your body. It's affecting everything, even your lymphatic flow. And people forget that it really goes into the way that you think and you perceive yourself in the world to allow yourself to be the healthiest person possible. Yeah. So I think mindset is honestly one thing that they put off to the side because they think, oh, it's this woo-woo magic and I don't have time to meditate or to work on myself. And one thing that always sticks out to me is Tony Robbins always says, if you don't have 10 minutes for yourself in the morning, you don't have a life. Absolutely. And so if you can set 10 minutes aside just to do some breathing or meditation, that's all it takes. Just get in a groove, get yourself ready for the day, realize where you're at, what are your goals. In that short amount of time, you can do a lot for yourself, your health, and everything else just to get yourself primed and ready. So I think that's something that someone could definitely start, working on in their life. And there's so many different routes. There's different types of meditation. You can do incantations, whatever you'd like to do. But as long as you're working on yourself in the morning or even throughout the day, I think that's going to go a long way in somebody's health and their journey.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think some people have this perception of meditation or mindfulness as, again, being a bit too out there, a bit woo-woo. But actually all that is just allowing yourself to come into yourself, paying attention, just stopping, breathing, and trying to be in the present moment. And most of us are chasing our tail, constantly being bombarded with beeps and buzzes and ringers and whatever. I never even have my phone on ringer now. It's always just on a buzz, on airplane
Nice.
mode. And I go to it twice a day because it was controlling me and getting me stressed. Now I control it and I can control my stress. So it's interesting you saying that. As you say, what's showing up in the skin makes you think, what on earth is going on underneath that? But I'm delighted that you're able to share even just that, somebody just taking even 10 minutes, in the morning just to be mindful about their day up ahead. How are they going to eat? They're going to prepare themselves for lunch. Taking care, the basic self-care, because most people tend to eat on the run. Most people don't even have breakfast. The whole idea of breakfast is to break the fast, is to eat in the morning, to put fuel in your tank, fuel in your engine, so that you can, we carry around our phone chargers because we're scared our batteries are going to run low on our phone. Yeah, we don't think to stop and recharge our own cells, our own batteries, be it with food, liquid, or even just with nothingness, just sitting still. So I think we've all got a long way to go, but I'm delighted to hear that, you really get this. And it's so wonderful to speak to you because you're so excited about it as well and you understand. So have you had some great success stories yourself with patients that have come into your clinic?
Yeah. So actually there was this one woman who I worked with it must have been 5 months ago now. And I remember she had eczema all over her skin, dry skin, cracked. She's had it she's had eczema for like 25, 30 years. And, she went through the gambit of the medical system. She took Dupixent, like all of these eczema drugs. And, she was also on an autoimmune protocol with like these TNF alpha, blockers, which are for autoimmune diseases. And for no reason at all, I asked her questions like, hey, like, why are you taking this? Why are you taking this? And she's like, oh, because the doctor said this. And I'm like, to me, I'm scratching my head. I'm like, what? Why would they put you on that? And it happens a lot. Like a lot of doctors will actually put someone on like antidepressants for conditions that are very unrelated to depression.
Yeah.
Because they do have synergistic reactions with other conditions. But to me, that's just kind of like, really? That's just a little unnecessary. And you're just adding more to the problem. So back to the story on her. So, I looked at what she was eating and she wasn't eating super terrible. She was doing like a vegetarian based diet. And to me, honestly, I'm not a big proponent on doing like radical diets. Yeah. I think that when you even whether that's keto, paleo, or veganism or whatnot, I do not think that you should cut out certain things like forever. Yeah. Like I have major beef with vegan diets because, they're missing a lot of really vital nutrients. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to tell anyone to be like eating meat and just that. I think that you need, a good proportion. So if you're looking at a plate, you should have like maybe 15 to 20% meat, right? Healthy meats, organic, grass-fed, wild caught, right? And then the rest of the plate should literally be loaded with really healthy vegetables. And then, some healthy oils and fats. So I looked at it and I was like, we need to start implementing a little bit more in here. So you get those B vitamins, you get the thing that you maybe have been missing this whole time. So, I work with her for 3 weeks only and she drops 35 pounds like that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, and I didn't ask her about her weight. She told me, she said, hey, Dr. Woodham, I just want to let you know, I've lost 35 pounds in the 3 weeks that I've been working with you. She says, I didn't expect this to happen, but I want to let you know I've tried everything for weight loss. I've done literally everything I could for the past 20 years. I haven't had this much weight. I haven't been this light since I was like 20 years old, and she's like 52 or something like that.
That's fantastic.
Right. And I was just so blown away, but it goes, and even her skin, she cleared up like significantly. She sent me pictures of her before and after. I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like she was like glowing. She looked amazing. She still had some like dryness, but there's two things that goes into that. She's actually allergic to dogs. She has 3 dogs and she's living in Southern California, which, we know California is a dry state. Yeah. So I said, well, how do you do in the state of Florida? Because Florida is more humid. It's better for skin. And she says, actually, I do much better. So I'm thinking to myself, how do you tell someone you need to get rid of your dogs and you need to move? Right? But that's something that you can only tell someone, they have to make the decision, right?
Yeah.
So overall, like, there's a few more things that I would like to change with her, but she, her health was amazing. Her sleep was better. Her quality of life, whether that's being focused on her job and having a better communication relationship with her family, was amazing. She couldn't thank me enough. Like, I educated her through the entire process, because I think a lot of times people, they get lost with the process when they really need to understand where they were and where they are now and how their body is changing. You can sit someone down and say, hey, look, I want you to follow this diet, but they need to understand why they have to follow it. And I don't like saying diet because, diet, right? Diet this, diet that. And it's restricting, right? Yeah. But it's more of a guide that they can follow and that they can understand what's really going on with their body. So with her, I was really, really excited for her. She had a life-changing experience, and it's something she'll remember forever, and she knows what works now. So let's say that she slacks off, she can always be like, oh, that's what Dr. Woodham told me to do. Okay, I'm going to go back to that, right? So it's really nice to see those kind of results, especially with someone who's been down the medical path and has failed over and over and over again. And then you give them something, it's like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. I helped her with that. That was awesome. Right?
It's so profound, though, isn't it? And I know that we spoke, a woman that I work with endometriosis have had very similar, they're in lots of pain, they're in chronic levels of pain, they've had it for decades. And then we, like you, I don't agree in diets. I think it's a 4-letter dirty word, really. We don't call diets, we just try and adapt eating habits that our great, great, great ancestors would have eaten. Let's not complicate it. Let's just keep us close to nature. And again, like you, women who have dropped 20 pounds, 35 pounds, just eating more, but eating more of the right foods and getting a taste for like how healthy these foods are, and eating in a way that's, not complicated, but just sticking to kind of what the body likes, isn't it? It's incredible how, quickly the body can respond. I mean, even just your example of 3 weeks, that's profound.
Yeah, it's actually like, I was really taken back. I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot. And I think what it goes back to is, a lot of people, they're adding stuff into people's nutrition, right? So it's like, oh, take this supplement, take this herb, take this, right? When sometimes it's really, let's step back and analyze, what is it they're eating and how are they living their life? Like let's take those terrible things out, and then let's put good things in, right? So I think too many times people forget it's what you take away really that matters. And like I said, I don't restrict people from anything, but you also have to understand there are things that are offending people's bodies daily, like sodas and just nasty concoctions that people take before the gym or after the gym. And it's like, man, you really just need to take a step back and look at your life. What is it that's really harming you, right? And so that's really what I look at. It's like, what can we take away, but then also implement that will help that person heal?
You're more like upgrading what's coming into their body, because I think as well, people fear change and seek change in equal measure, but, and they don't kind of know what that means. And the idea of feeling they're deprived of their cakes and their buns and their Coca-Colas. But if these cakes and buns and Coca-Colas are making them really, really sick, getting their body, maybe they've never known their body well. Maybe I know in my own journey, I'd never known energy. I'd never known my body healthy, only until I got to that stage. And I love it when I had clients say to me, I can't actually put any rubbish food in my body anymore because my body doesn't like it. That's when you're like, hey. But like you say, by educating people, telling them more about their body, I love it when people are like us. They've gone on the journey and they've been educated as to why has their body gotten to that state, and then noticing how it's responding and getting excited by the progress, because then you've got lifelong, long-term, health, rather than just, a diet for a couple of weeks, which can be more damaging to the body than not, but actually getting people into really good, healthy, sustainable habits, that are going to do them well. So if people do want to hear more about you, I know that you've written a book about eczema. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about your book that you've written.
Yeah, so the book I wrote, and it's actually pretty crazy because I sat down one day and I thought to myself, man, I have so much knowledge on health and wellness, not only for myself, But I've been through chiropractic college. I've learned about the spine. I've learned about like clinical nutrition. It's like, I could write a book about this and just brain dump everything. So one day I sat down and I just wrote I think I wrote like 15,000 words like in one day. And I think, I don't know, I think that's equivalent to like maybe like 50 to 100 pages or something. I can't remember. But I remember I was just like, oh my gosh, like, why didn't I do this a long time ago? So the book, it's not only for people with eczema, like it's totally geared for people with eczema, but it gives you strategies to have an awesome life. So I talk about sleep. I talk about environmental toxins, whether that's electromagnetic frequencies from our Wi-Fi or from our cell phones or anything like that. I talk about mold toxins that people don't actually realize could be circulating through their house and their vents, especially on the East Coast of the United States. There's a lot of mold in people's houses, and they don't realize that because it's so humid on that side. Whereas I'm in the West, so we don't really worry about that as much. I talk about that. I talk about relationships, how mindset and being around people matters. For instance, I remember when I was going through my own struggle with eczema, I hid from my family, my friends, and I didn't tell anybody that I was suffering with this because I didn't want people to see it, because I was supposed to be the health freak, right? And I totally wasn't. My body was being beat to the ground. And I remember one Christmas, I hid from my friends. My friends were calling me to hang out for like 2 weeks, and I screened all their calls because I was super sick. I had lost I must have lost like 30, 40 pounds. I was like 140 pounds, which is very, very skinny. And I remember I had eczema all over my skin, and I just was hiding from them. And that was actually making me worse by being stressed that they were going to find me and whatnot. So what I should have done is told them, because they're my best friends. They could have helped me through the entire thing. We could have talked about it. So I think the biggest thing, like we talked about earlier, is stress, mindset, getting it out. And then obviously I go into nutrition. I do a deep dive and, the things that you should probably not eat if you have eczema or any kind of skin condition, and things to limit inflammation, histamine responses, and a whole bunch of awesome stuff inside that, you get all my biohacking and all this stuff. I hate using the term biohacking because it's so overplayed, but I know it's a term that people understand to take your body and your life to the next level. Yeah. But yeah, the book is for honestly anybody. It's called The Unleashed Human. I'm pretty sure you can go, it's on my website, www.theunleashedhuman.com. And then you can even get on Amazon, I believe. So
fantastic. Yeah. No, well, it's certainly, with regards to inflammation, women with endometriosis tend to suffer for a lot of inflammation and hormone imbalance. So, and if they have got eczema and things like that, then it's great for them to, understand that, conditions that show up in the body invariably are, and I think as Dr. Axe says, 98% of diseases are a result of inflammation. So even just learning how to actually reduce that in slow stages, can have a profound impact on your body. So what would be your parting words of wisdom to people about their bodies?
I think that your health is the number one priority in your life. People, they will go to the dentist to get a tooth fixed, but they will neglect their spine, they will neglect their digestion, they will neglect their sleep, but everyone is focused on these physical appearances. Like, people are so fixated on looking good in front of people, the aesthetics, that they forget that they should be paying for the ability to thrive and to stay alive. Yeah. People literally will go their entire life without taking care of themselves. And then when they're 60, 65, they wonder why they're starting to have Alzheimer's symptoms. Yeah. And the whole time they could have been fixing it, they've been trying to make themselves and their outside appearance look better. I know I'm a victim of it. I was a bodybuilder. All I cared about was people to look at my body. But the thing is, I was taking nasty supplements. I was driving my body into the ground. And that is a recipe for disaster. So if I had some parting words for people, I would totally test yourself, whether that's doing lab tests or see where your performance is physically, mentally, and emotionally. So if I had anything to tell somebody, honestly, I would get a blood test, like 2 different blood tests. I would do like a 23andMe to see what your heritage is, where, you come from. Because, those tests can actually tell you how you should probably eat based on your ancestors and your geological location. I would also do a blood test for food allergies to see if you're allergic to certain foods. And I would also do a stool test to see if you are missing certain bacterial strains, or even if you have a pathogenic strain, because we know those bacteria in our colon are very, very important for us to actually absorb our nutrients and create B vitamins and the actual structural integrity and health of our nervous system. So that honestly is how I look at things. If you really want to know what the state of your health is, I think you should test yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some people get a bit stressed about the cost of tests, but there are so many great tests out there. And I think the ones that you mentioned are a good starting point for people. And you can even get hair analysis tests done as well that can determine, what your vitamin, mineral deficiencies and intolerances and things, and even heavy metals. So it's a good place just to I think it gives a good indication as well, even cortisol tests, even just to indicate how much. Sometimes I know when I got my test done and I got a cortisol test and it was like off the chart, it had to be on paper before I would realize how stressed I was, and I had to do something about it. But certainly from what I'm hearing from you is, as we all know, our health is our wealth. We can be chasing the dollar or the pound. We can be chasing this, to look perfect, chasing the ideal thing. But actually, sometimes our body goes on strike and says, stop, we really have to realign, really look at where we're at and maybe do something different. And I guess that's the message, isn't it, from both of us, to the listeners, is if what you're doing at the moment isn't working for you, don't keep doing it. That's the definition of insanity, to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's why it's fabulous to have people like yourself on, Thomas. So thank you so much for, I'm calling you Thomas, but you want to be called TJ, so I do beg your pardon. Yeah,
that's totally cool. Actually, I wanted to say one last thing. So people that are listening, they can actually go to my Instagram. It's at The Unleashed Human on Instagram, and they can actually get my book for free. It's in the link in my bio. You get like a free PDF.
I think you've given me the link as well, haven't you, for your free book?
Yeah. It's and then so you can even go to my website, right? It'll explain my entire story, but you can actually go, like I said, to my Instagram, and get that link in my bio for free. But also on my Instagram, like almost every day I have literally free content. I'm literally talking anything from like poop to digestion to like fixing your gut and a whole bunch of really wild, crazy biohacking stuff. So if you want free content, go to my Instagram, because I'm just pumping stuff out like crazy. My friends are like, dude, you're all over the place, but I'm happy to do it.
And I don't think we can ever hear it enough, because there's so much information out there. But what I've seen what you produce is really good quality information. And I like all your, the pictorial elements as well, because it just helps put it in perspective too, doesn't it?
Right.
But Luke, thank you so much for being on. It's been wonderful chatting to you. It's great hearing what you're doing and the, the impact that you're making on people that you're working with. And I'm delighted that you now are able to, spread your knowledge and this business all around the world, thank goodness, to the internet and your book and what you're doing as well. So thank you so much for being on. And I hope to have you on again, maybe in 6 to 12 months, and hear more about what you're doing and all these amazing impacts that you're having around the world.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Wendy.
No problem at all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K. Laidlaw. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate us. If you're interested in learning more, you can download your top 5 jumpstart tips at healendometriosisnaturally.com and jump on the VIP email list. Remember to keep you number one. The world needs a healthy you.